And we're sitting there having like breakfast at 10 on site. And Mark, I just figured out the other
Did they just throw you into the fire, man? It was like 10 people, like in front of you guys, that just walked in. I thought I was having like a sit down with just like watching questions at you and like looking up like 30 seconds to go. I was like,
I got hired in spite of the fact that I was kind of pretty funny. Like, how much do you get in obviously, it's the opposite.
all of a sudden I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I don't even have time to think right now. I'm just spending whatever time.
I didn't realize how primitive these persons were on site. And I heard a lot of stories. And they're like, so interesting to actually see what food they have. Jump along at night.
All right. So, first of all, thank you all for coming very much. I'm Joe Collette. I'm a member here in the geology department. And welcome to the second talk in the Archaeology Week series. I'd just like to take a minute to sort of give thanks to the people who helped make this possible. Eric Clausen is a former faculty member here at MSU, actually in the same department in geosciences. And a few years ago, he gave us some money to put together a speaker series for geology and geography. And that speaker series is the Mid-Continent Institute for Geology and Geography lecture program. We got the money around 2020, which wasn't a great sort of interval to start bringing people in and having people in a large enclosed space like this kind of close together for obvious reasons. So it took us a little bit of time to start spending this money to start bringing in some speakers, and this week is the culmination of that. So we have a talk tonight in this room here, and then tomorrow night Mark Leonard's going to be over in Ann Nicole Nelson Hall in Old Main, and that talk is happening at 6:30. There will be a meet and greet between 5 and 6. So that's tomorrow night. Tonight, we're going to hear an awesome VR presentation by a speaker that we brought in from the UK. So I'm going to let our geology club president, actually I call him Mr. Prime Minister because he's Canadian, introduce the speaker. Our Ojai club has been absolutely fantastically engaged for the last couple of years. COVID was kind of like a little bit of a lull, but these guys and girls have been just instrumental in helping to facilitate, to bring these speakers here. So without further ado, I'll introduce Nikita, who is going to be introducing our speaker.
Thank you.
All right,
Advance the slide.
I'll advance the slide.
There we go.
Alright, so good evening everyone, and obviously thank you for being a part of the Minot State Geology Club, otherwise known as Ojite's Discovery Set in Stone Speaker Series. For those of you that don't know, Ojite is a mineral, and it doubles as an acronym for our name, so we like to go by the Ojite Geology Club. So, as Professor Collette had briefly brought up, the club started back up last year after a brief hiatus during the pandemic. I assumed the responsibility of becoming the Geology Club Prime Minister, or more commonly referred to as the President, last fall. I knew that in the spring we normally brought in professionals from various fields to talk about their work, post-undergrad studies. We did this to motivate students in their studies and remind students how what they're learning in the classroom actually plays out in the real world. So sort of just to keep people motivated, keep studying away. In the past, we had reserved these sorts of meetings only to club members, but this year we wanted to open up the event to the broader community. But I didn't have an inkling of a clue how to do that. Thankfully, with the help of countless people on campus, from club members to our club advisor, Professor Collette, to our sponsors, to the marketing team and admin, countless others who helped in every task, from something as small as booking this space to funding this whole event, we're finally here now. We've had the pleasure of opening these events up to the public and honor of hosting a speaker today from as far away as the UK. So without further ado, I would like to invite to the stage now Roberta Marziani, West Sussex Geology.
Well,
Thank you everyone, and thank you for inviting me here, and I'm really, really excited to be here, and I've met so many nice people. In fact, before we start, I want to thank everyone, and Professor Joe Collette and Amanda Watts, and the guys from the Geology Club, who really, really inspired me these days. I wish I had had a little bit more time with you, but unfortunately not. You know, the time has been a bit short. But I hope I will inspire you as you have inspired me these last few days. So a little introduction about myself. My name is Roberta Marziani, and I work for Wessex Archaeology. I work in the geomatics department. So basically I deal with 2D data and 3D data. I do lots of surveys, I do archaeological mapping, but most of all, recently, I do quite a lot of photogrammetry and laser scanning. So tonight I will show you how we use some of this technology in favor of recording and preserving sometimes our cultural heritage. So before you ask, I'm going to tell you what these technologies are. So what is photogrammetry? Photogrammetry is a very, very cheap way of recording our cultural heritage. So basically it's a technique that uses 2D imagery to generate 3D models. It basically uses an algorithm, and it's a very, very cheap way to create 3D models. You only need a camera. This technique was invented by the army, like many good things, like the internet, and it was used during the wars to calculate distances using aerial photographs. Obviously, things have advanced a lot. They used to do this by hands with, hands algorithm. Now we have software that do all the calculation for us. And but most of all, in the last few years, last 10 years, photogrammetry has advanced a lot because our computers these days are able to create very, very detailed textures, which is what we want for cultural heritage, really. So, what do we use it for? Basically, it's used in many, many fields these days. It's used in mapping, in environmental science to monitor, environmental changes and impact. It's used in geology to record surface structures. It's used in physics. It's used in police work a lot to record accident sites and for evidence recording, and a lot also in gaming and film industries, where photogrammetry is a very quick way of doing special effects for movies and things like that. But we also obviously use it in heritage, and this has created all a new series of terminology, and so we're going to be talking about digital archaeology as well and digital heritage. So also I thought to put here what is, to explain to you what is virtual reality. What is virtual reality? Is computer-generated simulation of a three-dimensional image or environment that can be interacted with in a seemingly real way by a person using a special electronic equipment, right? So the most important part of virtual reality is this sensorial experience, and which is why we use it in this particular case. So, in all our latest endeavors, basically we realized that by doing lots of 3D models and recording the archaeology data, we thought there's many other things that we can do with 3D models, and one of it is, put it into a virtual reality environment so that people can sort of feel and imagine what it is like to be on an archaeological site. And this is great, particularly if you think about people who are disabled and might not ever be able to be on an archaeological site, or just people that they will never be able to experience something like that because just they're not archaeologists. So we thought it's a very great way to bring archaeology to people. And because the company I work for is a charity, so lots of the work that we do is to give back to the community. And so we thought this is a great way to educate kids, everyone, adults, about archaeology and our cultural heritage. Most importantly, virtual heritage. So as I was saying, the gaming industry is having a very, very strong impact on how we perceive the world around us, and also is penetrating lots of different sectors, as well as the sector of cultural heritage. So there's a new, we are starting to talk of virtual heritage, because particularly with the pandemic, we have created all these 3D models, and what happens is that sometimes the real thing gets destroyed, and what is left over is the 3D model of something that is forever destroyed. So that, as in its own right, is an heritage, and we need to take care of it as well as we take care of our real heritage. So as I was saying earlier as well, the global pandemic has had a big effect on digital archaeology and virtual heritage, because as everyone experienced those horrible lockdowns, and everyone was bored, sitting at home, you can't do much. And it was a shame that we couldn't really, engage with people. What's the best way to engage with people, in that kind of situation is obviously 3D models, to give them the opportunity to enjoy something and, be entertained and be educated at the same time. So tonight, the first project I will talk to you about is the ferry Barracuda torpedo aircraft. This is a bit of an unusual bit of archaeology to talk about, because it's a torpedo aircraft from the World War II, basically. Not everyone expects, to be talked about, but this is a very interesting aircraft. It was basically built at the very end of the Second World War, so I think it was around 1943, and because of all the military operation, there was a need to have, more, aircraft that were able to not only sustain the busy military operation, but that they were also flexible, and they could be used in different type of ways. So as you can see there, this particular one is flying and it's got a torpedo attached underneath. So basically, the ferry Barracuda, a little bit of a history there, was replacing the ferry Swordfish, again, because there was a need for a 3-seater airplane. So this is another photo of the ferry Barracuda. So basically, the Royal Navy put out a tender, and ferry won the tender to build this airplane. And so this was one of the most famous was the Mark II Barracuda, which basically had quite a few technology advancements into it. Particularly, it had a radar on. Now it seems pretty obvious, but not all the aircraft at the time had a radar on. And this particular aircraft also mounts a Rolls-Royce engine, and we'll see how later this actually is quite useful. It was a very useful way to identify this particular aircraft. What did we say here? Okay. So the ferry aviation won the tender, and yeah. So just to give you an idea what happened and how we found this aircraft, what you see in the background is geophysical data, and that little nugget in the center there, that's the airplane, which was spotted by our marine geophysicist by scanning the data on the seabed. So what happens really is that we do quite a lot of work, which sometimes involve like cable routes and offshore wind farms. This particular project was basically they were laid down a cable from France to UK. So we had to scan and make sure that the cable route was free of any wrecks or potential archaeology. So this was spotted, and there was an assessment, and it was decided that it was worth it investigating. As you can see there, it's a map of where it was found. So this particular aircraft was found just 500 meters off the beach, and what you see there are the runways for the Lyon Solent, where there was a air base. Just to give you a little bit of an idea where we are, this is the English Channel, and I would have liked a pointer, by the way. Now that I think about it, I'll just point it out. Anyway, so where do you see Portsmouth there? So this is just to the south of Portsmouth. A little bit more zoomed in. That's Lyon Solent, where the airbase is, and that's where the Barracuda was found, just 500 meters off the coast. So this is a little look into the marine data and what it looks in terms of bathymetry. You can see that the aircraft is pointing kind of southeast. So we know that it's pointing towards the base, the air base. And our marine geophysicist also realized that it was probably missing the tail. So I need to say that normally when we find, oh, thank you. Oh, that's cool. Are you doing okay? Oh, there we go. So it's missing the tail there, unfortunately. But anyway, we thought that this was a quite complete aircraft. It's important to notice that very, very, very rarely we recover an aircraft that's more than 10% complete. Because most of the time they are involved in crashes, raids, explosions, so you only recover just a little bit of them. So this was basically, it was thought to be already an exceptional find, very rare exceptional find. Let's talk about identifications. So at some point we thought, okay, what can they be? So obviously, because this is the Second World War, we can access the Royal Archives, the Royal Navy Archives, and there were a couple of candidates for this airplane. One was the BB-739 Blackbird, built ferry Barracuda Mark II, lost on September 1943. And the second was LS-473 ferry built Mk2, lost on January 1944. So you need to remember that this particular Barracuda was introduced towards the end of the Second World War. So those dates kind of make sense, this. So it was decided that we were going to do a dive to check out the remains of this aircraft. So this is what it actually looks like down there. The visibility was very, very low and terrible, and our divers had to do quite lots of photogrammetry. And please remember this photo when I'll show you later what it looks like in photogrammetry model, because loads of work went into that to photo-correct this, but all the photos from the photogrammetry looks like this. So just to give you an idea as well, this was already a corrected picture that was taken during recovery, and that's another one looking inside the cockpit. So some facts for you from the excavation. The aircraft was broken, so some parts were already detached, and also it was very annoying for the divers. They were pumping the sediment out of the cockpit continuously, and they realized that every day they would go back underwater and the cockpit would be filled again. Because of the currents that there are in that area, so basically the sediment was going back on top of it continuously. So it was a very, very challenging dive after all, and not easy. So basically, they decided to recover it. To recover something like this is quite of a logistical operation as well. So they had to rent a barge with a crane on, and they already knew that they were never going to recover it in one piece because it was not possible. But our divers basically had to sew parts of it underwater by using a reciprocal saw. So there's lots of strange operation involved in this dive. So yeah, when we recovered it, basically English Heritage, I had a look at the evidence that we were already thinking that it was possibly a barracuda because of those previous archives that I've showed you. And it's important to understand that there was only one other aircraft in existence in UK, and this was being built in a museum as a replica by using some parts of another crash site when it was recovered, basically. So it was considered straight away a very, very rare find, and so they decided to recover everything and possibly use it to help it build the replica that's kept in the museum. So, which is why on this very interesting logistical operation. So basically they recovered it, they made sure that it was kept wet at all times. The divers had to come back underwater a few more times to make sure they didn't leave anything behind, particularly coins, tags, and anything that could have helped with the identification. But also they had to, when they pumped the sediment out, they had to deposit the sediment on the barge so that they could put the aircraft on top. Imagine the difficult operation of all this. Anyway, so these are some of the manufactured plates. Obviously there's lots of serial numbers in there, all sorts of things that can help us identify these aircraft. But most important, the thing that helped the most was the serial number of the engine. So type Merlin 32, as we said, it was a Rolls-Royce engine. So they basically sent the serial number to Rolls-Royce, and they came back with all the information saying, yes, that's a Ferry Barracuda Mark II built in 1973. Great, we got it. And so yeah, everyone was quite happy. So Important to say, all these parts, tags, serial numbers that were recovered are going to be used to build the replica as well. So every single bolt and piece of the aircraft will be used to build the replica. So, this man here is our Sub-Lieutenant DJ Williams, and he made his entry in his logbook, and where he says that the aircraft engine failed and crashed it in the English Channel, swam for about 2 miles until shore. So what happened here? We think that the aircraft was carrying a torpedo, because during the recovery of the aircraft, they basically recovered parts of the ropes and straps that were holding the torpedo. So the only reason why it would have been there is because this was carrying a torpedo. But DJ Williams probably released the torpedo when he realized he was going to crash, released the torpedo, soft landed at sea, removed his boots, and he swam to shore. But if you remember, I told you that this was found 500 meters off the coast. So why does he say that he swam for 2 miles? Poor guy, I don't think he was having a good day that day. So basically we think that he probably were very, very strong currents that day, and so he had to swim quite a bit to save himself. Also, quite interesting fact, when they recovered the aircraft, they did find 2 boots, but they were 2 right boots. And so no one can understand, was there another person? But according to the logbook, there wasn't anyone else with him. So we think that he must have wore 2 right boots that day, just to complete, you know, the horrible day he was having. He was also wearing 2 right boots. Anyway, just to let you know, it was great that DJ Williams survived the crash that day, but he also survived the Second World War. So that's quite nice to know. So this is an example of the photography after photo correction. You can see, actually you can see something. This is part of the top, I think it's near the engine somewhere. Sometimes it's quite difficult because they had to do quite close-up photography. As you can see, there's a lot of sediment on it, shells, it was well rusted. Also, the aircraft got damaged by dredging activity, which is quite common in the English Channel, which is why the tail was missing. So this is just to give you an idea of how much photo correction we had to do to actually get the 3D model of the aircraft. So that's the final 3D model. So it's important to understand that our divers, our archaeologists, they don't have any means to record anything underwater. Their best bet is photogrammetry. They can't draw, they can't, you know, the only way they have to record something is using photogrammetry. So sometimes they not only they have very, very difficult conditions, they might have very, very low visibility, there might be currents, there might be all sorts of strange things going on, and they also have to do, you know, recording of an aircraft using photogrammetry underwater. So I think, you know, they always try to do a great job. So by doing this photogrammetric model, we help them in their job, and so those cross there, those are basically put there by the divers, and we use them to scale the model. They're just scales. And once we have it scaled, we can take measurements of it, and we can do all sorts of like research work. We can use the model to do all our post-excavation research. Another way of using the model is by creating interesting animation, something like that. So this was basically is the same model that went to build, it was used to build virtual reality. So I wanted to show you this other side where basically we can use the 3D model to create what is kind of a sketch rendition, because they can't draw underwater, so you can use the photogrammetric model to sort of create a drawing out of it. And that can be quite useful for them as well. Or you can render it with different levels in a sort of digital elevation model. So this is some photos of what it looks like in the virtual reality. Some of you might have seen it earlier. So as you can see, there's been a lot of photo correction going on in there, and then once it goes into virtual reality, lots of texture and color correction is reapplied again to make it look natural and what it would have looked like, brown and rusty. I think this is a video. I'll just show you a little bit of a video for people who was not able to do the virtual reality earlier. And I think this is one of my favorite ones because it really gives you that feeling of being underwater, what it must have felt for them. And probably this is just showing the best condition that they were having, which they were not having.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can you turn the lights down on the screen itself?
The last one. Okay. There we go. I quite like how they put the little plants and algae. So I really hope that some of you might be able to do a little bit of virtual reality so you can actually go and access some of those information in there and explore it a little bit better. I quite like the water effects as well. And also the virtual reality for the respirator. Should have put music on this one. There's actually a song called Barracuda that Amanda made me listen the other day, and I thought that would be a perfect soundtrack for this. So, okay, well, I hope you guys can have a go later on. And there are fishes as well in this one, by the way. There are some fishes here and there. So that's it for the fairy barracuda. Next one is the bata bee. So there's quite a lot to say about this one. So first of all, I want to show you where Bath is. Because before coming here today, I realized some of you might not know where it is. So Bath is right there, southwest of England, and that's our abbey there. The Roman baths are just here, and they are built on top of geothermal springs, and this is quite important for our story today. We'll see why in a minute. So the Bath Abbey Footprint Project is a very, very interesting, sustainable project that Wessex has been involved with since 2018. So it's been a very, very intense project, and we have done quite a lot of work here through the years. Last year in November, we had a closing ceremony, and just to, to kind of celebrate the end of the project, and then we realized it's actually not finished yet, but never mind, so there's still a little bit more work to do in it. But yeah, it's been going on for a while. So I thought here to include some photos from the Bath Abbey, because it's a very, very impressive structure. It's a perpendicular Gothic building. And so one of the project's objectives was to remove the collapsing floor. So the floor of the Abbey was collapsing because it's built on, because it has underneath more than 6,000 coffins. So people were buried under the floor of the church, and the coffins had decayed and the floor was collapsing. So quite of a tragedy, really. So they really needed desperate intervention, and the only way to do that was to remove the floor and to excavate the bodies and rebury them, and then to put the floor back onto it. But the interesting thing is that they also took the chance to do some renovation work while we were doing that, and most of all they thought of conveying the waters from the geothermal spring and to use it to create sustainable heating for the Abbey. So I thought that was quite interesting project. So as you can see here, there's the floor, and all these are graves. There's, as I said, more than 6,000 graves, so only from the medieval times. So a lot of people were buried there. And so this is another view of the floor, and these are the columns, the base of the columns. So basically, to start this amazing project, we had to do a 3D model of the floor first. Very, very accurate 3D model of the floor. Then the stone masons came in and removed each stones one by one, numbering it. And once the floor was removed, we could actually start the digging. So some of the objectives, as I said, very important: the removal of the floor, removal of human remains, reburial of the human remains into the Abbey's churchyard, and reassemblage of the tiled floor. So we started the excavation in 2018, and we were actually excavating in 3 different places at the Abbey. We were excavating under the Abbey, under the vaults, and the Jackson extension. So that one right there, it's the Abbey. This one here is the Jackson extension, and now has a visitor center built here. These are the vaults. This is all underground, because that's a main square here. So this is all underground, but obviously to convey the water from the geothermal springs here, they had to create the connections to the Abbey as well. Lots to do, and most of the work was basically underground most of the time. Very challenging light conditions, and also to allow all the different partners to work in the project. We were only able to excavate very small areas at the time. So imagine we had stonemasons, labourers, people putting cables in, plumbing, all sorts of things. So it was a very, very busy site, a small and busy site. I've just put some of the finds up in here. So we had an incredible quantity of finds of sorts, really. Stone sculptures from all some various times, and we also found Roman finds, although we haven't really dug into any Roman layers. So, so basically we had to come up with some strategy for this site because it was going to be a bit challenging. So as I was telling you earlier, we started to use photogrammetry in Wessex quite heavily. So me and the project officer involved on the site, we thought that we were going to use photogrammetry to record it, because obviously the archaeologists were going to find lots of structures, walls, floors, things like that. That sometimes takes quite a long time to record by hand, drawing stone by stone. So we decided to start recording with photogrammetry, and we also had a total station on site to geolocate each model in a very, very precise manner. But in that photo there, it's what it looks like when the floor was about that level, and when it had been removed, and it was all the cathedral was all boarded up, so we didn't ruin anything. And the column were also boarded up. So it looked a bit like the abbey. As I was saying, end planning was replaced with 3D recording. So our archaeologists ended up doing 213 3D models of the site, which was quite massive endeavor already. And you know, it was, we started to joke and think, you know, what we're going to do with all these 3D models. And it kind of made sense to put it back together. So just to give you an idea, these are some of the areas, all the different areas. As you can see, where this is where the labourers were working, so they had all sorts of, you know, like gravel and stuff laid down. So it was a very challenging situation at the time to share with other people. Lots of the lead coffin were left for the very end, because they're quite difficult to deal with, they're very heavy and they're very toxic as well. So yeah, we thought we have to put this back together, right? Because otherwise, why have we done it in the first place? So I started to stitch it up all together, and I ended up with something like this. So this, to put this back together, it took me a year. Like, it was a very, very detailed stitching work, let's call it, you know. It was quite a work, let's say. So we started to think, hang on a minute, once we have this composite model, we actually have something quite special that no one has seen before. Because the archaeologists that were on site, they never saw the site like this all at once. They never did. All they could see were just a little bit at the time, just a little fractions. So we thought we already have something quite special to be able to see this in its entirety. This down here, by the way, is the Jackson extension, which was also included in the 3D model. So we thought, this is not even 3D recording, this is 4D recording, because it's something, we are showing something that never existed in one given time. Does that make sense? So this is with the floor on top, just to show you how the two overlap. So this is a little bit of a view of the composite model, and with projection extension in that. So we started to think, there's something we can do more with this. The more we did on this, and the more stuff we thought we could do. So we realized that this could be very good as a way of doing post-tax. So it could be a virtual research environment where people working on the post-tax, they can use it. People that maybe have never been on site and they have to write a book for the publication later, they can be on site, they can go and look at this model and actually understand what the site was like. So lots of ideas started to float into our heads, and again, with the project manager, the more we looked at this and the more we thought, it would look really cool to put it into virtual reality. I know, and things happen, and sometimes you say something and you activate something in motion, basically. And I don't know how, this simply just happened. And we were able to find the funding and actually get some money to do the virtual reality. So obviously this is, it's a sacred space. It's got lots of history. So we were trying to give ourselves justification and excuses to do something like this, because Wessex has never done something like this before, and I don't think many other companies have done something like this. So we were trying to find reasons to do it, basically. So I just put that quote in there just to make you think a little bit about this. So the objective was to use computer-based technology to record, preserve, or recreate artifacts, sites, and actors of historical, artistic, religious, and cultural significance, and to deliver the results openly to a global audience in such a way as to provide formative educational experiences through electronic manipulations of space and time. Right? It just really describes very well what we wanted to do with it. So, one important thing that we needed to consider that before we would do something like that is the significance of a site. So obviously, Bath Abbey is a place very rich in history and mysticism, and is a place of worship. So we also think that the Bath Abbey was built on top of an earlier pagan temple. Then, a monastery, an Anglo-Saxon monastery was built on top, and then the Norman cathedral was built on top. And there, in 1973, Edgar was crowned as the first king of the English. So it's a pretty important place, right? It's got loads of history. And then in 1090, Bath Abbey gained the status as a cathedral and was dedicated to St. Paul and St. Peter. So, I think the place had quite a lot of significance, right? But we needed reason to do something like that, because you don't just do virtual reality on everything. So, what is the cultural significance of this place? So obviously, as we said, the mystical significance, the religious, but also, the local communities were very, very much linked into this place, because some of their relatives, they were buried there. So they kind of felt a connection with it, which wasn't only, religious and mystical and historical. But there were direct connections with the local people. Also, also, what was happening as well, that we were finding all this interesting stuff on site, and the media were talking about it, and so we thought, imagine if we can create this in virtual reality, and we can give the local community and the public a way of experiencing the site excavation. We thought that that would be, what we should do. It just felt right. As I said earlier, this idea started to materialize, and so we were able to acquire the funding. We already had VR creators of Wessex, so it all happened quite naturally. So as we started doing this, we realized that we were creating virtual heritage. What is virtual heritage? So, as we said earlier, virtual heritage is the application of virtual reality technology to visualize cultural heritage. This one, and most of all, it's computer-based visualization and multisensory experience. So this is some of the views on this are from the Jackson extension. So another important aspect of virtual heritage is the aim of visualization. And as we will see later, I think it's important to realize that people can learn using visualization. Visualization can be a way of learning. So you don't necessarily have to read a book or use your computer to learn something. But you can also use visualization. It's a pretty powerful way of learning. So it was important for us that we would consider all these things when we were doing this. Virtual heritage is the attempt to convey not just the appearance, but also the meaning and significance of cultural artifacts, and the associated social agency that designed and used them through the use of interactive and immersive digital media. So I've just added here some of the finds and particular features that we have in the Abbey. This is a zoomed-in photo of the stained glass window. These are the Norman columns. This is a sculpture of Jesus Christ that stands outside, and that's one of the medieval floors that were recovered during the excavation. So now a little bit about this virtual reality. So the VR was born as a means to create a meaningful link with the public, to engage it, and to help appreciate the multiple layers of history that are embedded in this site. So basically, this is clearly rendered in the VR, where the apparent dimension is the site of the excavation, which is the past. And the present dimension is suggested by the surrounding Abbey structure, rendered in transparency. I hope that makes sense, because it made a lot of sense for us to render in full color the excavation and put the Abbey in transparency, because we thought if we hadn't done that, people would be too distracted by the beauty of the cathedral. I'll tell you what we want to do with this trick later on as well, but that basically is meant to give you the sense of what is the present. So when you are in the virtual reality, the excavation is the present. So other important aspects of this virtual reality is there's information points that you can click on, and they have illustration from 100, 200, 300 years ago. So that should give you yet another layer of historical landscape, really. So again, give you more the feel of how many layers of history there are in this place. Also, we thought for this virtual reality, we would add a torch as a tool, so that you can go and light like dark spaces in the excavation, but also because we thought it'd be cool for people to play archaeologist a little bit, so you can actually get inside the sondage and light the section and have a look in the dark places. So, you know, you can feel a little bit like an archaeologist exploring the various dark corner of this virtual space. Other things as well, quite cool, that when we did this virtual heritage, we used all different type of information that was available to us. So historical information from, you know, archives and other data sources, but also, more importantly, all the information that we have gathered with the excavation. And the very cool thing with this was that archaeologists worked close with the VR creators to build this up. So it was a very interesting way of collaborating. You know, as archaeologists, we're not very good at technological stuff, and everyone thinks that we are, you know, we just like old things and we don't like modern stuff. So it's actually not true. This is just to reinforce the concept that, you know, visualization can be used as a tool as any other ways of researching and learning. I've put loads of quotes here from this book, and I'll tell you later which book it is if anyone is interested. So also other problems that we realized were happening. So we've done this VR 4 years ago now, and as things change very quickly in technology, so when we put the composite model inside the VR, we had to make it a lot smaller with a lot less detail, because our computers just weren't capable of loading something that big. And obviously there was a little bit of detail loss there, but we think if we were doing this again today, probably we would have a lot more possibilities to put a lot more detail in there. So this starts a lot, you know, a new set of problems now that obviously what is going to happen to this in 10 years' time? How can we keep this relevant and modern at the same time? And these are very important things to think about, because this is a virtual heritage, so we need to think about it, what is going to happen to this in the future, how are we going to maintain it and keep it up to date. So, as we said, there's still a lot of things to think about, but we realized that what we could do to keep this current was to add more layers of history in there. So these days with virtual reality you can create slides where you can go back and forth in times. So you can select, for example, I don't know, I want to be in 1093 or 1975 when King Agdar was crowned, and you can select all the various times and see only those specific remains for that time that were found. So a lot of this is basically opened for more work, basically, which is why I said it's actually not finished yet. And what happened after this is that we have done even more work and 3D work at the Abbey. And so we did the digital twin for the floor first, then we did digital twins for the eastern and the western glass stained windows. Then we did photogrammetry of the western facade. of the building outside, and then we ended up laser scanning the old building outside. So that's quite a lot of data. And so about 6 months ago, we were talking with our partners at Bath Abbey, and they started to put all their data together, and we thought we can collaborate with them and put all the data together in a massive repository. There can be this virtual reality where we will have all the data that we have collected for Bath. And that can be used for, many different type of, situation. Just think about I hope not, but if something happens to this building, as sometimes does happen, something can be destroyed, we do have a digital record of this, basically, and quite a detailed one. So, these are going to be the last few slides. I wanted to show you some screenshots of the floor. Some famous people buried in there: Robert Marziani, some of you might know, William Draper, but also there was an Italian buried there. Just saying. So a little view of all the tombs there. As I said, more than 6,000 people were buried there. But also I wanted to give you a little bit of mesmerizing photos. So these are the two, that's the eastern window, that's the western window. These are possibly the most difficult 3D models I've ever done in all my life. Because, so when we decided we were going to do this for them, we hadn't realized, well, initially, they wanted to fly a drone inside here, and then we thought, you can't do that. You can't fly a drone. If you lose control of the drone, you really risk damaging this forever. Come on, who will want to talk to Wessex archaeology ever again once you destroy the Bath Abbey? You can't do that. So we started to think of ways of recording these windows. These are very high. So imagine that the base of the windows, this is already 6 meters from the ground. So how do you do something like this? You can't build a scaffolding. You can't put a cherry picker inside the abbey. You can't fly the drone. There are no balconies to go on the top. So we thought, well, maybe we could just use a massive pole, but the pole that we could find only around till about here. So this was a problem, It was a head scratch because we already said yes, we were going to do it, but we didn't know how to do it. So we ended up hiring some very, very powerful lenses and cameras, and I have to say, they came out quite alright. These are probably the most detailed models I've ever done in my life. So just to give you an idea, these are quite far away, these windows. Once you stand somewhere down here, you can't really see what's going on in the windows over there. No one really knew, even what they looked like up there because it was too far away to see. So we were able to create some pretty detailed imagery of all of this, and I swear to you, the file of the 3D model, you can zoom in to infinite, and you can go down to the micron. It's so detailed, and so when I was doing this, I actually it was a mystical experience for me, and I went through all the Bible, everything, obviously this is all the story of Jesus Christ. There's the Old Testament and the New Testament. This is Jesus doing carpentry with his father, and his Adam and Eve. So, I thought I'll just put them there for you because they're really cool. And just to show you last few slides, we also did the west facade of the abbey, which is this facade. Again, same problem. There's plenty of sculptures around here everywhere, but unless you have a binocular, you can't see what's going on. But to record this one, we could use a drone because we were inside, so we used a drone and a laser scanning, and we did a pretty accurate model of this. And some of the statues, some of them they don't look good, but this is how they actually look, the sculpture. This is not my 3D model. This they look like that. And that's St. Peter and St. Paul, the cathedral dedicated to. And this is King Henry VII, and on the top over there's Jesus Christ. And basically, if you go to the visitor center in Bath today, you can play an interactive media, which is this thing. You can just zoom in on all the various sculptures, and when you get to the top, there's Jesus Christ appears and says, "Well done, you got to the top." I thought it was quite cool. It's quite fun, and there was an old lady before me, and she really enjoyed it, and she made me really happy. So this is a photo from the final ceremony that we had at the Bath Abbey. There's a choir singing. There's a floor put back, and most of all, we got in there, and it was, you know, the floor was heated. It was amazing. It was warm, you know. And they put dust sculptures in there, which is this is from a UK artist, and is, you know, our planet. It goes around everywhere. It's been featured in several famous buildings and locations. But yeah, it symbolizes a little bit the sustainability of the project, which I really, really liked. So yeah, that was it. That's it. Thank you very much. Also, if anyone is interested, there's the reference here, critical gaming and a little bit story on virtual heritage. Yeah, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Jonathan has a burning question. How deep was the water where the tunnel was?
It wasn't very deep. It was between 20 and 30 meters. This is Johnny?
Yeah.
Cool. Yes.
Anybody else got any questions?
So you're about to start 10-year dedication to the Stonehenge Tunnel project,
Yeah.
which is going to keep you very busy.
Yeah.
How do you feel about handing off
Abandoning Bath?
the maintenance of this digital model and, you know, the upkeep and further enhancement of it? Are you...
Well, I'm not the only one doing these things at Westside, so, and also it's a long-term project. And also we'll have lots of 3D models in Stonehenge as well to do, so, you know, this is a long-term.
So are you willing to hand this off, or are you still going to keep
Oh,
it?
yeah. I mean, yeah, we have a VR team in our Wessex who actually maintain these kind of things as well. So, you know, I've done my part on it. They can do their part, you know. I don't have to do it all. Yeah.
Will they let you fly drones over Stonehenge?
Yes, they will, yes. Thanks God for that, yeah. Did you know the Stonehenge was painted white during the Second World War? So they could be avoided during the landing because there's a base quite close to it. So they painted it all white. I know, right? The things they've done at Stonehenge during the years. They moved the stones around a few times as well. In fact, English people sometimes say, "Oh, Stonehenge is really good." It's all pretty messed up together. It's not this place anymore. Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand, earlier on the slide you talked about stitching the things together.
Yeah.
Like I physically know what stitching means, but I don't know what it means in a virtual sense. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, so basically, because we use the total station to record each part, so in the total station obviously we use coordinates, X, Y, Z coordinates. So when you put it in the same virtual environment, they automatically go in the same place. Well, not in the same place, one next to each other, where the coordinates will tell to go. So the only problem was that sometimes they would overlap because they've excavated parts in different times, so sometimes the floor level was at different levels, so when they excavated next to it was like 20 centimeters up or down. So in fact, one of the most difficult things of doing the model altogether, we had to, in places, we had to homogenize the floor, make it all at one level, which wasn't actually, when it was dark, they couldn't keep always the same level, basically. So that was one of the difficulties that we had. But basically it's a bit like stitching, because you put them together one by one and you trim it where they overlap so that it looks neat and nice. A little bit stitching, basically.
So you like, I'm just trying, so you actually change the pixel? I mean, I'm just trying to think about how you do this, because do you go in there and actually, do you modify, how do you do that?
So the 3D models are, you can cut them, you can trim them around. So imagine a 3D model is a wireframe structure made of triangles.
Yep.
And so you can actually cut them, these triangles, so you can cut portion, and you can have them like neatly together when they merge in the same place, basically.
All right, thank you.
That's okay.
How did you get involved in with Wessex archaeology? Like, I know it sounds like most of the projects right now are all in the UK, but do you see this expanding maybe to other places like Italy or the US or any places elsewhere?
What do you mean, virtual reality or?
Well, the kind of things that I guess the projects that Wessex does. Like, do you see Wessex doing this work somewhere other than the UK or?
Oh yeah, we already do.
Oh.
We already do. Yeah, we have a couple of offices, one in the Netherlands, one in Germany. We've had quite a few projects around the world. We used to have a project here in the US a couple of years ago. It was related to offshore wind farms, maybe in the Gulf of Mexico. So we did lots of marine geophys data there and scans and stuff like that. But we also do lots of work in the Northern Sea. We have work in Australia. We have work in Saudi Arabia currently. We have done projects in Nigeria on helping them repatriate their some part of the artifacts that were taken by the British during the Second World War. We've done projects in Ghana and a bit of everywhere. So Wessex archaeology has been around for 40 years. So we have had quite lots of projects around the world already. And as for me, I basically joined them when I came back from Afghanistan. So they were looking for a geomatics person 9 years ago, and I joined them, and I ended up moving in Salisbury. I never leave Salisbury because I quite like to work for them. So that's it. Yeah.
How big do these data files get? I'm just trying to remember.
They get huge. In fact, our IT department hates me because they keep on buying new servers and to store this stuff. It's a nightmare, and in fact, it's part of my job to make sure that we archive these things in the proper way as well. So when I archive it, I need to make sure that I find like a middle way where I don't lose details, but it's the smallest file I have, basically. Some of this file can be easily 500 gigabytes, like this, you know. But I've been studying new ways of doing 3D models that possibly will reduce the file size of what we do, but it is a problem. Yeah, we have huge servers and we keep on buying space where to store these things, basically. It is a problem. Very clever question, thank you. Anyone else? Yes?
How did you deal with the glass on the Abbey, both laser scanning and photogrammetry?
Just photogrammetry. We used a very powerful camera, Sony Alpha 7R, I think, with a telescopic lens. It was very powerful, 200 mil, I think it was, or maybe more, 500 maybe.
Do you have difficulty with glare and the rendering model?
Yeah, we did have difficulties with that, mostly because you get the sun from the other side, you know, coming through the window, so that creates glare. So we decided to do HDR. You know what HDR is? So you do overexposed, underexposed, and normal exposure photography, and we did 5 of them, so different exposure. So to capture the colors in every exposure, and then we had to stitch those photos together to make one shot that was perfect. It took quite a lot of photo correcting as well, but basically that's how we did it. Yeah.
How did you control for horizontal?
That's a very good question, in fact. That was one of my biggest fear when we did the windows, because obviously you are only taking the pictures from the ground level. So as photogrammetry works, that you need to take photos around an object from every side, and we couldn't take photos from the top. We couldn't. So I was really scared that I was not gonna get any data, but actually, so we managed to use the pole. We did use the pole, and you know, we extended it as much as we could, even if it couldn't actually reach the top of the window, but we did, you know, reach kind of halfway. So that kind of worked, basically. Then I did end up with some holes on the structure, the base, so the top of the window, the base of the glass right at the top, it did have holes, but you can go and reconstruct the mesh there, and you can sort of fix the texture by copying the texture next to it. And you know it's going to be a pretty good guess. And what was important was that the figures and the actual stained glass was correct, because they were going to use the images for publication, because people, you know, to use the images for actual research, historical research, because they were never photographed, you know, frontally, those windows, so they needed to be perfect. And yeah, we kind of managed, it was a miracle. I think it was a miracle, to be honest.
Did you ever consider maybe doing reverse, shining light through the church and doing it from the outside where you could do drones?
We did do it from the outside, but then you can't see the color from the outside. You kind of see black and white. So it was a very challenging site, in fact. Any other questions? Yes?
Do you foresee your work being put into augmented reality?
Yes, we do have some augmented reality projects where we are thinking of, you know, including with the virtual reality. Yes, we do have something like that already, yeah. I don't know all the details at the moment, because some of the stuff is still a work in progress, so I don't know many details, but I know there are people working on them already. I think probably you can get some information on the Wessex Archaeology website. There's some stuff on the augmented reality.
Oh, he's got a question. No, I was going to say, well, that's the last question. You can go first. Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to understand like your personal journey, because I'm kind of imagining, like thinking about as an archaeologist, I wouldn't have thought of this. Do you know what I mean? Like when you started, I mean, I kind of think of digging things, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Which is what I was doing for a long time.
yeah.
And then I've become a digital archaeologist. Now I am a digital archaeologist, I like to call myself. There's only so much digging you can do in your life.
Nigel, your back goes out by about
Yeah.
28.
Oh.
Yeah, after 18 years that you do it, your back says, no, no. So you kind of find other ways and things that you like, you know, and you kind of like develop other skills as well. It's difficult to stay actually being an archaeologist, digging all your life, just destroys your body. It's really bad for you.
Okay.
problem.
Alright, my question was, so you've been to the structure, obviously, you've been to the Bath Abbey, and
Yeah.
you've also obviously seen it in virtual reality now. I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously in an ideal world you try both, but if you could only either be there physically in person or just in VR, which one would you choose? Because in VR, I mean, you could see the top, all the stained glass, which you might not be able to see from the bottom of the structure in person. But in person, I don't know, you feel the air, smell stuff, whatever it is.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. In person is always the best choice. But in that case, if you were in person there, you would have only seen this bit of archaeology,
Right.
and the rest would have been workers and generators. So,
Yes.
you know, I think in this case the virtual reality is better. You know. Yeah.
Can I have the last question?
No, mine is
Okay,
a
go.
request of you. Do you think you could put on the VR goggles and walk us through Bath Abbey?
Sure, I can do that. I'm really bad at the headset.
Let's do that so we'll have a little bit of time. I never really realized. Okay, shall we do that?
Thank you everybody for coming. You don't have to watch
Thank
me
you.
struggle. But you feel free to say as well.
It's
really cool.
No, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's worth just watching on the big screen as he goes, and then we'll be like, no, go right, what's in that hole? Yeah.
I'm really bad at not walking around, which you're supposed to be able to move without walking.
Okay, if you put yourself in here, I think you might have to turn it on.
Oh, but then they don't get to see it on the recording.
I think my memory card might run out if we don't stop recording.
Joe, do you want the stream stuff?
I'm sorry?
Do you want the stream stuff?
We can leave the stream going, if you could shut off the recording to the memory card.
Yep, that's shot.
Does the data,
I think you need to set up first.
Alright.
Is it coming up with something?
Yeah, it says power off, and then I have options to. Oh, okay, yeah, that's an option.
Alright.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so if you can activate, it might ask you to set up a boundary. Does it say that?
Oh, there we go, I see you now, okay.
Okay.
Right now, oh yeah, it says DC disconnected.
This is, no, disconnect, no.
It says you return to your Quest home menu.
Quest homes, yeah, does it not say set up a boundary or something? Boundary?
It doesn't say that, no?
What does it say again? Sorry.
I see you, and then right next to you, it says PC disconnected.
PC disconnected.
Yeah.
Disconnected now. What about now?
Oh, USB detected. Click on this notification to allow connection device to access files.
Yeah.
Then it goes to offer this one.
Lunch quest or something? Lunch quest is it?
Yeah, like click to open. Oh, here we go. Boundary.
Boundary. You want to set up your
Yeah,
boundary?
it says off ramp. That's just it. Oh, there we go. Create boundary.
Create boundary.
Stationary or room scale?
Room scale.
Room scale. Okay. Objects boundary your boundary for safety.
Yeah. No, what about that? Yeah.
So just continue.
I think it will ask you to touch the floor. So you just need. Does it not?
Or make it a boundary. Remove things that you could bump into. I think it still has the old boundary because there's still a certain boundary.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So then you can. Okay.
Just say continue.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, continue. Now I got Wi-Fi, pass-through, Bluetooth, boundary, Quest link.
Questioning.
Launch. Oh, it says PC disconnected. But you guys see what I see?
I don't know if confidence in word.
Oh, man.
Come on now.
So it's back to asking if I want to click to open. Yeah, the quick settings open. And the last one I did quest link, that's when it came back. So should I try quest link again?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says RIP is connected right now.
No?
Alright, so I'm gonna press launch. Okay, it's loading. Loading. Oh, there we go.
Oh, well done, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to launch the bath abbey,
That.
I don't know if you did you do it?
No, I just on the water one last time.
Ah, you do, okay. Well, the bath abbey one is quite cool. It's got
Oh,
torches on it.
it looks
You
awesome.
go for it. So it tells you a little bit of instructions there. So you've got a torch as well. Oh, thank you.
Alright.
Gives you a little bit of instructions how to do it,
Yeah.
how to move around. So you, yeah,
Oh, that's the move, that's the move.
yeah, that's
Oh, here's my
what it
torch.
was. Yeah, that's the torch.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
You have to release the trigger, maybe to move.
the wrong one.
Do you have the hands backwards?
The hands.
Oh, yeah, my hands are weird.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I was set up for failure. What?
I think when you release it, it should tell you. Can you see the instruction there?
Yeah, but it's kind of blurry for me. I don't know if I have bad eyesight.
Hold both teleport buttons to start.
Oh, hold both. This way.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh.
You move in. So try to get familiar with it. So that's to your left. There's where you have floor.
Let's go read this thing.
That's a coffin.
Foundations for a screen. Not too shabby. How do I get this cool?
Try pressing some buttons. See if there you go. You're activating the top. You've just activated.
Oh, I just. Oh, no. There we go. So that turns it up.
Yeah.
Wait, how do I turn it off?
You don't have to worry about batteries.
Huh? No.
Oh, so I don't have to turn it off, I can just leave it on. Alright, let's go. Way up. Oh! Oh, what? You mentioned there were dead bodies here, right? Some.
Yeah, 6,000 of them.
It's a good sign.
So in some of the coffins you can still see the bones. And I don't know if anyone has found this so far, but there's a brick coffin as well, which is very strange. Never seen anything like that. A coffin made of bricks. See if you can find it.
You give me a hint where I might be?
Huh? You need to find it. I'm not sure which. I think you are in the area of the lead coffins. So the brick coffin, I think, is the opposite side, the other side of the oven. Maybe.
Turn right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I saw those question marks.
What is that thing over there?
This you can teleport to the junction extension.
Oh! Well, that's.
Huh?
Like, Nikki, turn right.
Who's talking?
There we go.
Oh, look, you can look inside the drain there.
Can you bend down?
That's another coffin right there.
What's?
That's another coffin. Coffins everywhere. See the metal around it on the floor that makes that whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I'm smart enough for this. I don't see it. It is. It's really.
You're doing really well with that
It's
flashlight.
really, you can bend down and kind of crouch and see things.
That looks real better. It's like there.
Almost
Almost can smell it.
Yes.
Did I might grab them or something?
Yeah, don't worry.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm not sure.
I was like, oh no.
Yes.
Yeah. Alright, we're looking for a brick coffin, ladies and gentlemen. Brick coffin.
What does that tell you?
Obviously, back
Back to
to
that.
that. That's where I was.
The brick coffin is not even just an extension, though.
Oh.
To be honest. You
We're going up.
don't necessarily have to find the brick coffin.
I quite like that that's the organ.
Oh, look, there's a hole there somewhere. Oh, look, the brick coffin.
Oh, is that it?
Yes.
Oh.
You found it!
How strange is that? A brick coffin. I've never seen it before. Have you?
No.
Strange, isn't it? Wonder when it was made of brick.
It's very cask of Amontillado, isn't it?
And I must have been
Was that
amazing.
the brick, an outer coffin and then the?
No, it was just, oh yeah, it's, yes, you're right. There is a lead coffin inside.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. No.
Extra bricky and heavy. Find the medieval floor. See if you can find this.
Yeah, there's a hole that's got a really neat,
A sundial.
the older tile.
Sundial.
Oh, there's a body. Bend down.
Oh man, he's had better days.
Oh,
Yikes. Oh well. At least he exists permanently, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna file this.
And those are collapsed lead coffins.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have added the names of the people, but we thought it was a bad taste. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the sundial to your left. Right there you go, the hole, the square hole.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
I have to tell you the first.
Which is known
You
as.
can jump in.
I can jump
Can
in.
you jump in?
Get in there, man.
At least shine your flashlight in there. Bend down again. That's so cool.
Wait, why not? Oh, I guess it'll be overpowered. He's very disoriented.
Look at the detail on the tile. You got a layer.
There's a symbol of the apple there, and the cake as well. That. So that is the floor contemporary with the crowning of the Edgar.
973,
973, yeah.
which, you know, King of the English.
Yeah.
When William the Conqueror says he was the first king of the English in 1066.
Not really.
He could speak English.
He was lying.
Could we load up the fairy
Barracuda.
so people can take a look at that?
All right.
The Barracuda?
I don't think
So, does anyone want to try, or we have to have one?
You already done this.
I guess I did a really good job. Someone raised their hand, I can't
If anyone else wants to try it,
Anyone else want to try it?
tell. Who wants to go underwater?
two. I wish that was.
Because you get so much closer to the texture, it makes it, like, it becomes more resolved.
I wish that would the two right roots.
Right, so that you could find the two roots? I feel like you should make that like that, you know, update.
Put a photo of the two right roots.
Yeah.
What a day was that, right?
This one, can you have anything?
No, this one no. No, this is educational.
I like the one that
I know.
I want to put that one again.
So,
I'm trying to find my food.
Oh, you found the comfort bag?
Yes, I found this last time too.
I didn't know that that was called a comfort bag until today.
you can't say no. Always starts from the beginning.
Look at us, we're like, yeah, we used to be archaeologists, now just important.
Can't do that. It doesn't do that. No, it doesn't say it does. So you can't.
You don't have to stay down on the floor anymore.
Well, no, I just kind of, you're kind of right, you got so, you gotta keep
I really enjoyed part three.
Also,
Big jars. Oh, much novel to a long.
You always start from
Are you trying to
Save the dirt.
no, my knees are
flatten your feet trying to swim?
Yeah, we can tell. In it, we can find.
Is anyone getting this information?
No,
The plans are perfect to
okay.
leave out. So at some layer, you've got the
I'm not,
contents.
because
And so we can even. So you can find out whether there's like a brain germ in there, or, you know, what exactly is stored in there. So having that sort of thing. Once they know if it was filled, everything was filled in after yeah, a little bit of the stories from abandonment to whatever.
It's not in those tunnels yet.
Is it possible to swim out of this pool?
You may try.
Do I just look up?
You're going.
Oh,
Are you sinking?
oh man, that is far away.
Oh, you're still at the, you're still.
It's on display.
I was very nervous.
Go do it.
Return to the black.
I'm going, I'm going.
I've already done that. I can stare at you.
It makes you go back if he's in a crawl.
Even worse.
Like I've got 3 high holes in my basement storage area.
What is another one that we haven't seen yet?
If we don't know it, good.
Well,
You know, so.
Yeah, but the people that
I never even measured
well,
what I
we're doing
think.
on this.
go to, if people want to run baths.
And it sometimes got rated by Italian.
Maybe townhouse.
They
Oh,
eat.
the man is great for. That was.
And it was because there was.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, just, I was scared that you're gonna share.
Oh, sorry. No, I had no idea it was
We
getting
had like our special rooms that were the ones to be shot into the roof, like one needed to.
I tried to
And it was really nice. And we got
I think you have to hold both of
breakfast
those.
to the weekend if you stayed overnight. And
There we go.
so we didn't open all so.
Look out.
They've lived up there for years.
Look at the texture of the
I
beads.
lived in a third of a tin shipping container.
So I lived in the wall and then would go
Sorry, just trying to get out.
No. I was one of the only people who had a Western style to it. It's like three-dimensional.
This one is not very interactive.
They didn't turn off my water once when I came home to visit. And it filled with ice and it broke, so.
Is there a way to rotate it up when you like?
No.
I was like, I want to look really dumb.
No, I think it's as well.
Okay. No,
What kind of foods do you eat? You know,
So every morning on the way to site, we would have already fried us a whole plate of eggs, lots of eggs. But they were fried eggs that were basically, they're all ice cold. And so.
is that for soap or is that for
Lots
It's a lamp.
Just like what's but we got shakshuka, which is like cooked tomatoes until it comes down almost to the sauce or and then two eggs in it. So it's really good.
a normal person would be allowed to prevent your leg?
Probably not. It's a sort of national dish.
Where'd you be?
Well, I managed to get some people out of the thing, sorry,
How did that happen?
how did you do that?
You found a cheat. You found a hack.
What happened?
How do I go back?
You're testing your model out.
Don't want to fill one, go through the wall.
Wash our clothes.
Oh no, I'm getting stuck in
There were a little
You found a secret.
more in our section, and then we had about 100 Afghans. Yeah.
It doesn't
people are going through the wall.
I keep trying to sit on it. I just want to see.
Shooting in tears.
You have to sit, you don't crouch down.
Ours was divided into like. So I
Oh, I don't see the secret room.
Is that
it's there.
But they have no flash. Exactly, there are no flashlights.
You have to light one of those lamps.
Maybe something I can suggest to people around town.
Generators.
Oh, the TV, the screen is right in front of you. You want to back up and see something like.
How did you do that? I swear I'm good.
Because it does, it spins.
Yeah, I think you work a lot, sorry.
Yes, you
Yeah, it was intense, but you know, Robbie and I bought it.
So she was
I don't think you go on that.
I did the mapping. I thought you were good.
Yeah.
I'm like partway through this.
The textures are really amazing.
Has she been here before?
Yeah, when I was pregnant with Jonathan.
Oh, this
So it's
is
been 10 years?
Yeah, the different comments depending which one you watch.
Yeah, Salisbury, yeah, but
But go to the medieval town hall because that's fun. You guys didn't do it the other day. And you can cut things and you can dig the cabbages. Yeah, yeah.
I'll follow the cabbages. I'll follow those cabbages.
we had each other.
right there.
Auntie Roberta.
These are the most recent
Auntie
ones.
Roberta. Can you jump?
So you have to put the stuff on the wood.
They are. They look like they're sweating.
Try to treat your bottle. Yeah.
Exactly what it was, Jen.
Oh, it's nice. It's better yeah, it's just extend your hands. A bit more.
thought it failed.
Had I known that there was a place.
And you can grab it. And you just throw them. Everything goes, you can grab it.
And throw them.
No, you can grab them.
Reminds me of my
Yeah.
house, where they use auditoriums, you know.
Yeah, it comes up with sausage.
So, I can send you the chocolate.
Try to prove something. There we go, how's that? And that.
Take it off.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
He's adapting however, when it works, whenever it works. Change your mind. Let me know if I will.
John, which one do you want?
Oh, the shredder.
Which one you guys, would you try this? Huh?
Oh, it's the back.
Yeah, it is.
So sensitive. He has the mama cats. And then you can draw it.
Yeah, it's so great.
I think because like we smile a lot. It was very fun.
And then it grows on.
The beginning.
The parents just have something to
One wrong, doctor, no one to work out. But I mean, he's good about it.
Throw it over.
That's his job, and he does a great job. He always
Puts
takes
stuff where you know it's
sometimes it's a little bit off. And you used to look at it and it's like,
Oh, I didn't get to check that for
It's from Iowa. And it was like,
you know, anyway, I
I'm proud.
only the
go to the ground somewhere.
So you can go out, yeah, but you go to the next pool park.
Grab a shovel and golf.
that whole thing.
It was really nice.
Grab a shovel.
go over there. Grab the shovel. And then go over there. Put it in there.
Yeah, so you can
If you're hate that. If
And then golf and
Turn around to the cabin.
she's in trouble. Don't give her an And then golf caddy. Never take a look.
Oh my God.
He's doing it real good. He's trying. He's really trying.
What grades are due? I have Right.
One more.
What makes my baby go crazy? If I watch it, she'll know how to work.
Yes, it's during finals.
Have you ever tried it before?
But you know,
Watch somebody else do it.
it really is.
I can watch it.
I'll get it. I was fixing you on
I've tried that before, and it's
really good.
my
Right.
stomach is very uncomfortable.
They don't, go into the chicken pen. Just get away the chicken.
It's the chicken.
Here's an oil.
I think I just repeated.
You can, you should go to the video, you got toilets.
What do you want?
Yeah, there is a video, there is a video, you got toilets.
So,
Yeah.
Right out there, and, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
And I came out one time, I was like,
Probably.
Who wants to take over?
I just wanted to tell.
Everybody's gone.